really matters? That might be the most important question you can ask. So let's talk about it. Welcome to What Really Matters podcast, Everyday Spirituality with Karen Wyatt. Thanks for joining me here today. I am going to be talking about another one of the questions that people most frequently search for in Google. If you have been listening for several months now, you'll know I've been going down this list of questions that Google put out that includes things that people are searching for about life, things perhaps all of us are wondering about life. So I've been going through this list of questions, trying to do my best to answer them in my own way, not because I'm some expert, not because I actually know the answers to most of these questions, only because these are things that I've spent much of my life thinking about as well, and trying to gather wisdom about in my day-to-day existence. So I've challenged myself with making recordings about these questions in hopes that maybe something I've discovered or learned along the way would be helpful to you as well. Again, I'm not saying I know the answers to any of these questions or that I'm any kind of expert. I'm just sharing with you what I've learned in my own journey through life. And I'm at a stage in my life where I'm able to look back and really consider the long view of life and the process that it's been and all the opportunities I've had to learn very deep spiritual lessons. So I'm trying to share what I've learned and record it here so that it will be there once again in case it's helpful to anyone else. And I fully recognize that it's possible that a month from now or a year from now, I will have all new insights and may wish I could change all of these answers that I'm talking about here in these episodes. And maybe I will. Maybe I'll come back and record something new that will share with you, something else I learned along the way that changes everything. And that's really the intention of this, to be a dynamic, living, growing podcast where I share with you my own journey and what I'm learning along the way. So let's dive into the question I want to consider today. This is a big one and a tough one, and I'm going to try to actually break it down to make it a little simpler to talk about. And this question is, why do we die? Now, obviously, philosophers have written about and talked about this question forever. It's been on the minds of humankind as long as we have existed, because as far as we know, we are the only living beings who are aware of our mortality, who actually know that we will die one day. And it's interesting to think about that. That's one of the things that sets us apart from the animals that we encounter on our planet, from other living beings. Again, I'll say as far as we know, since of course we're not within the consciousness of those beings, but as far as we know, we're the only living things who can sit here and ask ourselves this question and think about it. Why do we die? And why do we need to know that we will die one day? I think that's also a good question. Why is it that other living beings on the planet can just go about their existence and not have the burden of pondering this question, of wondering about death and having to carry that with them every day? And what happens for most of us actually is that we end up suppressing that question and denying it rather than thinking about it all the time, because it makes us uncomfortable to think about it. We don't actually have an answer to that question. We don't like unanswered questions. We don't like the unknown and uncertainty. So it's easier to bury it a little bit. And most of us probably don't think about it all the time. However, speaking for myself and those of us who work in the end of life arena, we think about death a lot because that's the work that we do. But one quality we have is that we're all, for one reason or another, pretty comfortable thinking about and talking about death. So it comes very naturally to me to be able to ponder this question, why do we die? And think about this and talk about it. It's comfortable for me. And if you've ever listened to End of Life University podcast, you will know that I spend a lot of my time talking about death and dying and grief and all the other issues that come with our mortality. So again, I'm not an expert on the spiritual aspect of why we die. I have only spent a lot of my life in the presence of death and thinking about it and pondering it and searching within myself and my own soul for how to carry through life this knowledge that I will die one day. And now, of course, if we look only at the physical level for an answer to that, we die because it's actually coded in the DNA of our bodies and of all living things that there is a gradual senescence, a gradual aging that takes place in our cells. And eventually it ends in the death of cells. And when enough cells die and are not unable to reproduce and perpetuate themselves, the organism ultimately dies. So we know that we are built this way. We are built to be temporary. These bodies are temporary vessels here on earth, and everything material that we come in contact with is also temporary, though some things will have much longer lives than we humans do. So what is going on? Why is it that everything in the universe that is material dies eventually? Because we know that even planets, stars, galaxies, universes, everything ultimately dies. It's a law of the universe. And we can't escape that truth. We can't outthink it or out-reason it. We can't run away from it. We can't ultimately deny it. It's simply the way things are here on planet Earth, but also in this universe in which we exist. And we do not have an answer to that question, why? Why is it set up this way? We only know that it is. And for the way things work here in our universe, we also know that life itself is dependent upon death. The death of material things is essential for life to continue, also essential for change to happen, for growth to happen, for evolution and transcendence to happen. So death is a necessary part of this cycle of life that occurs throughout our universe. And we can't escape it because we couldn't be here without it. Death is necessary for us. So that's the truth that we have to come to understand in our life here on planet Earth as part of this universe and this multiverse. We have to accept it. And part of our spiritual growth is coming to a place where we can look at that truth, not run away from it. We can hold that truth in our hand and also not be terrified or intimidated and not give up on life because of the fact that death is a reality. So our spiritual growth is this process of being able to look at death, hold it throughout our lives, recognize that it's there, and even incorporate it into our living in certain ways, and find a way to make life even more meaningful and beautiful and filled with love because of the fact that our own individual physical lives will come to an end one day. So this idea of being able to embrace the concept of impermanence, meaning nothing lasts, everything changes, it's an essential part of our spiritual growth. If you want to become a better person, if you want to grow in spiritual ways, And I'm not talking about religious ways, just if you want to be a deeper person and have greater integrity in the world and live your life to the best you possibly can, then it is necessary that you come to terms with death and the reality of death and impermanence. Sometimes that's an easier way to think of it. This impermanence of everything in existence, that nothing lasts and everything changes. So the best question to ask yourself is, how can I live knowing that I will one day die? And that becomes the quest of your life, figuring out, how do I do a better and better job of living here as a mortal with a limited amount of time? How do I make my life more and more sacred, more and more precious, more and more meaningful with the time that I have here on the planet? So I want to read a poem to you, which is a poem about impermanence, and I love it, and then I'll talk a little bit about it. This is a poem titled, "You Will Lose Everything" by Jeff Foster. You will lose everything. Your money, your power, your fame, your success, perhaps even your memories. Your looks will go. Loved ones will die. Your body will fall apart. Everything that seems permanent is impermanent and will be smashed. Experience will gradually, or not so gradually, strip away everything that it can strip away. Waking up means facing this reality with open eyes and no longer turning away. But right now, we stand on sacred and holy ground, for that which will be lost has not yet been lost. And realizing this is the key to unspeakable joy. Whoever or whatever is in your life right now has not yet been taken away from you. This may sound trivial, obvious, like nothing, but really it is the key to everything, the why and how and wherefore of existence. Impermanence has already rendered everything and everyone around you so deeply holy and significant and worthy of your heartbreaking gratitude. Loss has already transfigured your life into an altar. Wow. That just moves me. And that's the essence of, I think, the gift in knowing that we are mortal, knowing that everything will come to an end one day. We will lose everything, as Jeff Foster says, means that we actually can cherish every single thing we have right now in this moment. This might be the last moment we see someone we love, the last time we taste a strawberry, or the last rose that blooms on the bush outside our home. Every single thing we experience in this moment might fade away in the very next moment. And when we're aware of that constantly, we can cherish and hold as sacred anything and everything that we experience right now in this present moment. There's a tremendous gift in that, because life cannot be meaningless if in every moment we're aware of the beauty and the value of every single thing we experience. Life cannot be empty. Life cannot be boring or disappointing or mundane when, because of impermanence, we understand how precious every single moment is. And so Jeff Foster writes that impermanence has rendered everything holy, everything significant, everything sacred, and also everything worthy of our gratitude. And so I think as part of our process of trying to understand how do we live with this reality of impermanence and the reality of our own mortality, is for one thing to begin to see every moment as sacred and everything within that moment that we experience, every part of our lives, as having its own deep, holy meaning and value. And then also generating a feeling of gratitude for the fact that we get to be here. I'm right here in this moment right now. And yes, the wind is blowing. Isn't it amazing to be able to witness the power of the wind and how it whips the trees back and forth and blows the dust and the sand up into the air? That's incredible. That is some sacred power right there in the wind in front of me. I can appreciate it. I can feel grateful for it rather than feeling resentful and negative and unhappy about what's taking place in my life. And so even impermanence itself can be something that we experience gratitude for. Even our losses, we can recognize as painful as they are, as challenging as they are, as much as they hurt. And they require us to carry this deep longing and yearning within us throughout our lifetimes for everything that has vanished, everything that has slipped through our hands. We can also be grateful for those very same losses, because it is those losses that have, as Jeff Foster says, transfigured our lives into an altar, have brought us into this holy space of the present moment and taught us to cherish and love everything. And that, I believe, is what we're here for. When I say we're here for love, our lives are all about love, I believe it is that ability to love everything that we're experiencing in each and every moment, even the hard things, even the loss, even those painful things that hurt us so much and cut into us so deeply, to be able to love all of it. I think that's what we're here to learn. How do we carry this impermanence with us, and how do we begin to love the fact that we are impermanent, that we get to be part of a holy, sacred existence because of this very impermanence. So I would say, instead of asking, why do we die, understanding the better question is, how do we live knowing we will die? And then from there, how do we live with love and gratitude in every moment? How do we turn our lives into an altar, a sacred altar, and create as much meaning as possible out of each and every aspect of our existence? And so I have another poem to share with you that I dearly love. It's not titled, but it is by Maria Eugenia Vaz Ferreira. And this poem, it is a toast. It is a tribute to impermanence. To all that is brief and fragile, superficial, unstable, to all that lacks foundation, argument, or principles, to all that is light, fleeting, changing, finite, to smoke spirals, wand roses, to sea foam and mists of oblivion, to all that is light in weight, for itinerance on this transient earth, somber, raving with transitory words and vaporous bubbly wines, I toast in breakable glasses. I also love this poem. I love the fact that she brings in every fleeting, precious thing that we see around us in our existence to remind us that this is just how fragile our entire lives are. This is just how quickly life itself dissolves away from us and vaporizes. And so we must remember to appreciate every single moment of it, which is what I talk about all the time. And so, as you see, I have not really answered the question at all, why do we die? That's a question that poets and philosophers and scientists and sociologists have studied throughout the ages as long as humankind has existed. And there has not truly been an answer to the question because there can't be. And so I have reduced it all the way down to this simple matter of figuring out, how do we live knowing we will die one day? And with the help of my poet friends, I hope that I've inspired you to do your own thinking about that question. How will you live your life knowing you are mortal, but embracing that reality and making the most of it? I hope that what I share in these podcasts is helpful for you as you face that task for your life. I can assure you, I do believe, just as Jeff Foster said, that this task of dealing with our losses and our impermanence, this is the key to everything. As soon as you grasp this and begin to live your life this way of infusing meaning and sacredness into every moment, just for the very reason that it is fleeting and impermanent, then you will begin to have a better perspective on all the things that happen to you in life, and you will better be able to prioritize where you give your time and your energy and your love in your life. And so I wish this for you. I hope to support this philosophy and this state of mind for you, even though I cannot answer this question for any of us or for myself. But I wish you much love and peace on this journey through impermanence. And I hope that your life is blessed and you recognize the sacredness that is all around you. So until the next time we are together, remember that, as I always say, we're here for the love. The love is what brings the meaning to us in each and every moment. So face your fear, be ready for whatever may happen next in your life, and just love each and every moment that you have the opportunity to experience while you're here. Bye-bye.